All right, this is an incredible opportunity to be able to talk to all of you about how amazing our hometown is and was, and to be able to tell the world about Mankato, Minnesota, and about Gwen and Tim Walz, who impacted all of us in different ways, and that's why we're all here today. You don't have to ask who the former Walz students were, because we're here to tell you, and we will not stop. I will get back to my notes so I stay on track for the essence of time, but we're so excited that you're all here as we launch West Alumni for the Harris-Walz campaign. My name is Rochelle Norton, and so I own North Star Art Club in Minneapolis, and that's the original location for this event until Darwin stopped by last night about 7 p.m. and said, you know what, that's not going to work because every news organization wants to come. So we pivoted here within, less than 24 hours notice, and so here we are, and we're so excited to be here. So just like Tim Walz, can I back up? I'm a licensed educator and former teacher, and just like Tim Walz, some of the core tenets I believe in the classroom are inclusivity and engaging and including every single student. I recently opened North Star Art Club in Minneapolis, actually 5 weeks ago, and thank you. And I hope it can be a place where every single student feels comfortable, just like the Walzes always supported us and made us feel so comfortable. Mankato West alumni and also the general public are welcome to use this space. I'm right at 50th and France, so it's a pretty central location, pretty easy to get to, and we'll be talking about some of the activities that we'll be hosting coming up. So one thing about me, this is incredibly personal because I grew up right down the street from Gwen and Tim Walz. I had to drive past their house to get to my house. So I grew up in West Mankato. I believe Nate Hood has a West Mankato hat on wherever he is. And I spent hundreds of hours with them junior year at Mankato West High School. So Gwen Walz was my teacher for American Literature and Advanced Composition. I also had her for the ACT prep course. That was an evening course. And then Mr. Walz was my teacher for Global Geography. Tim and Gwen were always unwavering in demonstrating how much relationships matter, and their role modeling is showcased and a testament to how many former students have gathered and connected over the past few days and weeks to rally on their behalf. Some of us were in band, choir, sports, National Honor Society together. Some of us were one of Hope Walz's top favorite babysitters, whatever Annie is. And some of us are just meeting for the first time today. But Gwen and Tim impacted all of us. They showed us the values of inclusivity and collaboration. Josh and I had some good teamwork earlier, carrying the very large boxes of T-shirts, and we are thrilled to be supporting them as they always supported us. So personally for me, Gwen Walz was one of my favorite teachers and impacted me as a teen girl. She was a true role model as one of the strongest female leaders in our building. And I was just reflecting a little bit earlier that I had a significant number of male teachers. And so for me at that age, just seeing her, I feel like she really was the strongest female leader in the building. She pushed us in class academically to never settle for less than our best, and we worked for those A's and A minuses. Nobody was really teaching study skills too much at that time in 1999, and so she had a very specific way to help us stay organized, which I did really well with, and that was great for me personally as well. The role modeling and character that both Mr. and Mrs. Walz showed us regarding care, consistency, grit, and work ethic remain true to the core of who they are to this very day. Okay, so now moving on to what you can do to help. One of the things is that in the art club space in Minneapolis, we'll be hosting postcard writing sessions. The first one is tonight at 7 p.m., so if you go online, go to northstarartclub.com. You can sign up for one of the 15 sessions, so they run till about the end of October timeframe. And what you'll receive is a pack. Everything is ready to go. You can bring your kids. We're a kid-friendly space, and we'll be sending those postcards to swing voters across the country. It's a really special opportunity for us to be able to continue to tell the stories of how impactful both Gwen and Tim Walz were in our lives. So we only have 82 days to get them from West Mankato to the White House. So I'd like to introduce our next speaker, who is Sarah Maines.
Thanks, everyone. My name is Sarah Maines. I am a class of the 1999 grad class at Mankato West. We are so happy to be here. I think you can feel and see the passion, and a lot of that started with what we say, Mr. Walz. We'll see him throughout town in passing, and I still can't say Governor Walz or past Congressman Walz. It is Mr. Walz to all of us, and he has a wicked memory and will still address all of us by name and recall the memories that he shared with us as students. So we're so excited to share those stories with you today. One of the most fun stories as we're all seeing kind of his catchy phrases, and you can see that energy and passion that just leaches out. I was in his geography class and his social studies class, and he was the first person I heard coin the term, "Who put the nickel in you?" I must have been chatty that day. I'm in public speaking for a living and have done that in the cancer advocacy space for the last 20 years. And I really do thank him for teaching me how to use my voice, for teaching me how to speak for others that don't have a voice. We talk about inequities. We talk about disparities. And he was that person that said there don't need to be differences. How do we stand up to the bullies? We've heard those stories with him saying, how do we support the queer students and give them a voice when they didn't feel like they had a voice? What are those things that come out of educators? That's what Tim Walz embodies. That's what Gwen Walz has embodied. So you look at those formative years, that they're a teacher, they're a mentor, they show leadership, but that wasn't just who he was as a teacher. He's done that in all walks of life. He's inspiring us to all do that now in all our walks of life, to make sure that we stand up, that we think about how to be a critical thinker, how to speak with respect, how to push back and lead with facts and expect people to do things in an ethical way. And those were all of the things that he taught us at a young age, and those expectations and that responsibility that we take still run through. You'll hear from all of us today about the stories that he created, one of which I remember in his class, he would put us in a circle, and he would say, we're going to face each other. What does it look like to have eye contact? What does it mean to have respectful conversation? Create relationships with people that are different from us, that people who share similarities with us, and this is how we can use our voice. So I love being able to look back as a 16-year-old and a 17-year-old and watch him being our state congressman, watch him being the governor, watch him now as the vice president nomination, and taking those learned lessons and seeing how he's evoking those passions and those expectations with our community. So I'm excited for you guys to continue to hear about all the ways that our student base feels so excited to get involved and to have all of you get involved with us and really see him as that person that he is, that leads with kindness and empathy and joy. Thank you. Yeah. Next up, I'll hand it over to Josh Yagfeld.
Hey everybody, my name is Josh Yagfeld and I am class of 2001, and yes, I will. My last name frequently misspelled Jagdfeld. It's German. Like Rochelle, I was one of the homeschool with Walz kids, and that was the idea that you had the Walzes multiple times per day, usually in the same semester. Tim was my global geography teacher, and Gwen was my American literature teacher. And, you know, I kind of think back to being an 11th grader in high school, typical boy. Not much stands out to you a lot of times, right? It's easy to be disengaged. School is maybe not always fun. But Tim was hands down the most engaging teacher that I remember from my time in high school. He made the classroom fun. he connected with students in a way that made them feel like they could be in a relationship with him that felt authentic. He invited you into his life. He would tell us about growing up in Nebraska. He told us about the unicameral legislature, which none of us even knew what it meant, but we learned a lot about. He told us about becoming a teacher in Nebraska. He told us about his National Guard service. And those little nuggets helped you to feel like you could really be connected to him. And what that meant is that all kinds of different students, I was a band kid, an arts kid, my brother was a linebacker on the football team. We all felt the same way about Tim, and we were very different kinds of people. He cared about us. He was authentic. He was kind. He wanted to know about you. He wanted to know what would make you tick in his classroom. And, you've heard the story about how Gwen would talk about how he's a different teacher than she was, and everybody could get an A in Tim's class. I think it's because Tim was uniquely engaging in a way that made people really feel like they could connect and invest in his classes. Tim was also the person who created the spark in me to engage in civil service and really have an appreciation for what it means to be connected to your community through politics or engagement. I ended up studying political science at the University of Minnesota. Have done nothing with that in my life, but that's okay, because I think what it did is it created in me this inspiration to learn more about how the world works. And that started with building maps in Tim's class and understanding the geopolitical layout of our world. So I'm hugely appreciative of that for Tim in my life. The other really specific story that I remember is what a team that Tim and Gwen were. Gwen is the one who taught me to appreciate Mark Twain, Henry David Thoreau, through American literature, things I had never read before. But now I tell my kids about the celebrated jumping frog of Calaveras County like it is my favorite book. And that is, thanks to Gwen taking us down the rabbit hole of how great American literature can be. But Tim and Gwen together, again, this is one of those memories that a high school junior would probably not remember. They were trying to start a family for quite some time, and this is a thing that I didn't ever consider remembering 25 years from now. But I have vivid memories of how they would tell us about how much they wanted kids, and they were going through fertilization treatment, and it was so important to them. And I remember vividly when Hope was born, something that I wouldn't ever expect me as a high school student would remember. And I now see 25 years later how much joy that's brought to their lives, and I can see the same people from back in the day, authentic, kind, engaging. They want to know more about you. They stop to take the time to learn your name. They remember you the next time they see you. These are the people that we're here to support. And it's no mistake that all of these people here have raised their hand to organize after so many years of being students at West, because they have left such an imprint on us as people. And so I'm excited to tell you about some of those things. This group here is just a part of all of the students who have come out of the woodwork in the past couple of weeks. People I haven't heard from in decades, whose names I remember, whose faces maybe I don't remember, but have uniquely come around to engage in fundraising, writing postcards, doing door knocking, making phone calls for these people who are so important to us. I've probably got 5 teachers in my whole life that I can remember or add to the list. And Tim and Gwen are at the top of that list. So I'm very excited to be here. I'm very excited to invite all of you into this process to see what we're able to do for these people who've meant so much to us over the many years. And with that, I'll hand it to Angie Brunner. Actually, former saxophone player, jazz band. Let's go.
Thank you, Josh. Oh, there's a phone here. Is this your phone? Leave it. Leave it. Oh, it's me.
It's good.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Sorry. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for coming. My name is Angie Brunner. I am also, like the others here, a graduate of Mankato West High School, class of 2001. Yes. I was a band kid with Josh. We actually grew up down the street from each other, so we've known each other for a really long time. So you've heard a lot of sentiments already from the other students up here about the impact that Gwen and Tim had in the classroom, and I'll echo those, kind of on a broad level. I'd like to talk a little bit more about my personal experiences, not only as a student, but also, as a constituent of Tim Walz when he was in the legislature and now as governor, and as a parent who's raising children here in Minnesota. So it may come as a surprise to you, but growing up as a person of color in rural southern Minnesota in the 1990s was maybe not the bastion of diversity and inclusivity that one might hope. So, as a child, I am Korean American. I am the daughter of immigrants to this country, and I have lived in Mankato. I lived in Mankato my whole childhood. I've lived in Minnesota for almost my entire life. I will say that, it was maybe not always as easy as one might have hoped for me to, celebrate and bring my full self to school or to the rest of the community. But I've reflected across the last week or so about my experiences at Mankato West specifically, and the resounding sentiment that I remember is that I always felt safe within the walls of the school, and that I always felt that I belonged as part of a community. I felt welcomed by the wonderful staff there. Top of the list are Gwen and Tim Walz, who were such proactive allies, inclusive advocates for everybody at the school before those were even buzzwords. In today's day and age, they really lived that intrinsically and very inherently. And I had a wonderful community of friends, a lot of whom are here today in support of Tim and Gwen as well. What I remember about those days as a student and that sense of inclusivity, the trust that we had in Tim and Gwen, that they would reach out their hand to care about all of us, to make it a community for every single person, every single student within the walls of that school. I've seen a steadfast commitment to that purpose as Tim has taken his career to the legislature as our representative Walz for the Minnesota First, and then into the State House as Governor Walz for all of us constituents here in the state of Minnesota. So when I think about, what drives my passion for this project and for all of the activism that we're really proud to share with you today, I think what I have in Tim Walz is a lot of trust, because we saw that commitment to every single person, his desire to reach his hand out to every person to make sure that they felt safe, that they felt included, and a member of their community. And he took that straight through, and he has made tangible, positive benefits for all of those around him throughout his years in Congress and in the State House. I am a parent as well as a constituent here, so I have 2 young girls who are also little women of color. They are 7.5 and almost 10. They would want me to say that. And they have spent almost their entire lives with Tim Walz as their governor. And as a working parent here in the state of Minnesota, I can tell you that it is very heartening to have had him as our governor and for him to take the actions he has had to make our lives all tangibly better. I know that my kids, as public school children, when they go to school every day, they have breakfast and lunch waiting for them. Ooh. And for some kids, that's just a cool benefit. For some parents, that's a weight off their shoulders. For other families, it's a make or break difference. I know that my girls, as women, will have agency over their own bodies as they grow older in the state. And I know that as they grow older, no matter who they choose to love, they are welcomed and safe in the state of Minnesota. So all of these things, as a constituent, as a parent, I cannot overstate how measurably I feel those benefits here and how much I am unsurprised by the actions he has taken since he has left the halls of Mankato West and moved into the State House. So that's why I think we're all really, really excited about this announcement this week and, getting Vice President Harris and Governor Walz elected this November. When they get to the White House, they are going to continue on that purpose. They're going to remain steadfast in their commitment to all Americans and tangibly making lives better for everybody. So, with that, Rochelle had mentioned a little earlier the postcarding effort that's going to be happening at North Star Art Club. We're really excited about that. It's going to be running weekly live, so for anybody who is or is not an alumni of Mankato West High School, you're welcome to sign up and participate. Bring a friend, bring your kids, and come postcard for us. We are also going nationwide with a postcarding event. Yes, because we have many alumni across the nation who have all reached out in the last week and said, I want to help, I'm going to raise my hand. So we are taking it virtually. We are taking it nationwide. We're going to be sending postcards to swing state voters from different states to different states right up until the end of the election. So we've got, I think, over 90 volunteers already who've signed up. We've set a goal of writing 5,000 postcards. I think right now, even in the first few days, we're going to exceed that goal based on the amount of enthusiasm we have already. So we're really excited to keep this energy going. And yeah, let's get them to the White House in November. Yeah. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nate Hood for the final remarks.
Who knew so many former students were great public speakers? This is fantastic. I was like, I should just not go up. I don't want to end on a bad note. My name is Nate Hood, class of 2002. Thank you. I like how the class of 99 and stuff, they all came up with like paper notes, and now everybody else, 02, came up with phone notes. I think that's very interesting. Tim Walz was my teacher and football coach. And if I had known that he was going to be a vice presidential candidate, I would have taken notes in his class a lot better. I think maybe would have had a couple more interesting things to say for you, but here's what I really did want to say. Tim Walz is the real deal. Tim is the real deal. He brought the best out of students. He expected a lot from students. He respected students, and students respected him. And that's really impressive because do you know how hard it is to respect the opinion of a 16-year-old? Like, I don't know. There's a reason they can't vote, all right? Like, but Tim was a great teacher, and looking back at him as a teacher, I think of the 20-year class reunion that we had. Anytime Governor Walz came up, it was always the same story. It was always a story like what all the speakers here said today. Everybody had a story. I would say that 9 out of 10 people said, Tim Walz is my favorite teacher. And the other one, they probably never took geography. And I think that's an important thing to say because at Mankato West at the time, we had a ton of great teachers. We had a ton of great teachers at the time. I think we're all very thankful for that. Mankato, it's a great public school system, and that really showed. And Tim and Gwen both really right at the top. And I remember that class reunion, even talking to students who politically disagree with Mr. Walz. They all said, great teacher, great coach, great guy, great character. And I think that that's a reoccurring theme of pretty much everybody that I've talked to from high school. And as a football coach, man, the energy, the big Walz energy, the energy that he would bring, you see a lot of that when he gives a speech that like goes viral. Like we were seeing those speeches back in 2000, 2001 with him trying to hype up the defensive line. It was really fantastic. You see those like slivers of his personality come out, and it's really fantastic. And one of the things that I wanted to like say, one story that I have of Mr. Coach Walz was my junior year. I didn't start on varsity. I was second string. But he always made sure that, you know, we wanted to win, but he always made sure if there was an opportunity for somebody who didn't get in very often that they could get in. And I remember our first game of the season, we were like down, and Coach Walz brings me over and he goes, Hood, what's the score? And I'm like, 0-34, we're down. He goes, all right, you can get in there. And 2 plays later, I got my first tackle. And I'm pretty sure the guy ran into me. I don't know if you call it a tackle, but I got credited for it. But he was that type of coach, right? He was always looking out to make sure that some of the younger guys were able to get their reps in and really get their practice in. And I always really, really appreciate him for that. Tim Walz, here's the thing. I think that when you reach the level of success that Tim has, I think it can go to a lot of people's heads. And I can tell you right now that the Tim Walz that I knew in 2000, 2001 is the same Tim Walz that you see today. Every time I see him and bump into him, it's the same things. It's never even about politics. It's like, hey, how are you doing? How's your family? He truly is the same person. And it's fantastic to see. He hasn't let it go to his head. And just one more thing. Go Scarlets. Go Harris-Walz. And that's all we have. We want to open it up for any questions that anyone may have.
Just a quick poll, maybe by raising your hand. How many of you were not going to vote for the Democrat ticket or not vote at all before Tim Walz?
Ooh, that's a challenging question. There we go.
One.
Could you talk about maybe what changed?
Yeah, you want to hop up, Josh?
Yeah, no.
You want?
Hi, what am I answering here? What's the question?
Could you talk about maybe what changed your mind from that?
Well, I mean, it's Coach Walz. I'm sorry, Dan Clement, class of 99. I won't use paper, but I don't have my phone either. So, anyways, I mean, it's hands down, it's Coach Walz. And, you know, a lot of the other stuff that I may agree with, may not agree with, gets thrown out the window when it comes to Coach Walz. That man did a lot for me in my life, and I owe him the support that he's going to get from me. That's just what it comes down to, as far as I am concerned. I was down the middle guy. I'm a third-party guy. I like to be like, I'm against the grain. I'm not going to do what everybody else does. Nader, right? I don't know. These are the guys I vote for. So when Coach Walz, so when I moved back to Minnesota and got a chance to vote here in the state of Minnesota, Coach Walz was on there for governor. I'm like, No problem. I don't know about anybody else, but here's where I'm going to vote here, right? And that's just the impact he's had on me. You know, I throw all that stuff away when it comes to it. I guess that's about it. I wish I had a better answer for you, but, you know. Oh, CLEMENT.
Good one. Glad you're here. Yeah.
I was a babysitter.
Oh, Annie and
Yeah, I stepped in and did some extra shifts for the Walz's babysitting Hope when Tim was serving abroad. And it was just unbelievable how amazing a mom Gwen was and how she handled everything doing that. I'm a mom now of kids that are about the same age Hope was at that time. And it's, it is just kind of unbelievable. I can't even get through like bedtime as a solo parent. I'm like, how did she manage like doing that for as long as she did? So yes, they were wonderful neighbors, great employers, wonderful teachers, nothing but positive things to say.
What's your name?
Yeah.
First and last spelling.
Yes, last name is Eichmeyer, EICHMEYER, and first name is Anne, ANNE.
I was told that students encouraged him to run for his first office. Were any of you involved in that? And
Yeah, I'm Meredith Fus. It's MEREDITH. Last name is V as in Victor, A as in Apple, D as in Dog, I as in Ice Cream, S as in Sam. I was not one of the students who encouraged him. I worked on his first campaign. And so by the time I moved back from college, I was waiting to get into grad school. I graduated a semester early, so it was spring of '05 at that point, and he had decided to run, and I said, I'm happy to help. And he said, I don't have any money. And I said, that's okay. I don't have anything to do. I had been in politics in Wisconsin, where I was in school at Marquette, and so it was a familiar space to me, and he had coached my brother's state championship football team. He had taken my little sister on a trip, and so even though I didn't have him in the classroom, I had the privilege of working with him on and off since '05. I don't currently work for him, but it's been my pleasure to be around all these students and help organize this group.
all these years later, are you shocked that we're here?
Yes and no. We joke that he's like Forrest Gump. Things happen to him that don't happen to anybody else. He, one time ran into Bono in the hall in Congress and was like, I had a great conversation with Bono. And I was like, okay, that seems normal. He called me one day and said, I was at this event. I think they were filming a movie. Turned out it was one of the filmings and there were multiple of An Inconvenient Truth. I don't know. That's kind of who he is. Not that he accidentally gets places, but he gets places because he's genuine and people enjoy him and opportunities open up when you're that kind of person. And so I can't say I'm totally shocked, but it wasn't an ambition he ever had. It's just that I think good things come to those who treat others well and do their job. Yeah.
And there's time for 2 more questions.
Does any of you remember the event at the Quarry with the Bush campaign? Can somebody expand on that?
My brother.
Go ahead.
My name is Megan Holleran, MEGANHOLLERAN. I was not personally there, but my brother was one of those students with Mr. Walz. And I can't call him Governor Walz either, or God forbid their first names, Tim and Gwen, just, no, can't do that. So, Mr. Walz and Mrs. Walz, my brother was one of those students. My brother was the student who had a carry sticker on his wallet, and they weren't gonna let Matthew in. Tim brought Matt there and other students because he thought it was a great educational opportunity, because he is a teacher at heart, right? And all teachers are like, what can I do? What kind of educational opportunities, right? And this was it. And that's why they were there. And he was really disheartened when they didn't let Matt in because of that sticker. I think it lit some fire in my brother because he's been involved in politics for his whole life. He's now over in London, and I think it kills him a little bit. He's so far away. Yeah. I wouldn't mind if this brought him back. So yeah, it was a it was a big deal. It was a big deal for Mr. Walz. Because he saw that as a great educational opportunity for his students to see how this works, how this big machine of politics works, and to get us involved and get us all the information we need to form our own opinions, and to go out to the world and make it a better place.
Were any of you still enrolled when he decided to leave teaching for politics? Do you remember what he said to anybody about why he was leaving teaching?
We old. I think
we're old. Sorry. If the paper doesn't make a variant.
We have time for one more question.
I think Rochelle, did you mention that you were calling Walz one of the strong female leader, one of the few were female teachers, but do you have any anecdotes you can share about ways in which she conveyed that or inspired that beyond being one of the only women in the halls? Yeah.
I worked with her too as editor. Let's say both of us probably. I worked with her as I was the editor-in-chief of the newspaper. My senior year, the West Side Story, and she was the advisor. And Mrs. Walz is one of those people that if there is a need, she's going to step up. So I am sure life was crazy and busy, but they needed an advisor our senior year, and she stepped up. And the thing about Mrs. Walz is she's such a strong leader, and she instills others and empowers others, and she empowered me. And I am a dyslexic kid, but I was the editor-in-chief of the newspaper. I was not the obvious pick. But I had a fire in my belly. I wanted to be there. I was committed to it, and she supported me 100%. Supported all of us. Nate wrote for the paper. My best friend Julie was my copy editor, and that's how a dyslexic can be the editor-in-chief of a newspaper. You need a Julie Kroon in your life. And she believed in me, and she supported me, and she gave me the tools I needed to really rise, and that has carried me a great ways as I've gotten older. And so I'm so thankful for having her in my life. We invited both Tim and Gwen and Hope, see I said their first names, to our wedding when my husband and I got married, and they were there celebrating with us, and we invited them because they had such a huge impact on my life. And especially Mrs. Walz. I don't recall. I don't think anyone at our wedding were good dancers, but it was okay.
There is a video of Mr. and Mrs. Walz at prom dancing.
I mean,
one of our fellow alumni have that video.
She did lead the cheerleading. She helps out with Orchesis, so I mean, I bet she has sweet moves. So.
On that note, we really have to wrap up for the next group.
Thank you.